Hey everybody, I'm Mike R, and you're watching My Cars Shop. Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of My Car Shop. This is episode 36 in the 47 Ford Street Rod Project. Thought I would do a little overview today of what needs to be done on the car to make it roadworthy, which I'm still hoping to accomplish this year. If you've noticed on the videos, even over the past 6 weeks or so, I've been kind of limping around. I've had a knee injury that I've been nursing along. That's been getting better, and then of course, as I mentioned in the last shop overview or my personal update, I had a little incident with a fluorescent light tube here in the shop and been laid up for about 10 days, not able to work much with my hands. So today I thought we would spend some time just going over the car and laying out exactly what needs to happen in order to put this car on the road and be able to drive it. Like I said, we're hoping to be able to accomplish that this year. Still be able to drive it this year, but things have slowed me down a little bit with the state opening back up again. My business has been a little busier, has required more of my attention, of course, and that's where my priorities need to be. But yet, I still would love to be driving this car to work 1 or 2 times a week. So let's get that going. And I appreciate you joining. And we'll just get a little video shot here going of exactly what's coming next on the 47 Ford Street Rod Project. Okay, so one of the first things that we need to do is to obviously get the headlights and stuff on. But before I can do that, there's some bolts in here I need to install yet to get the fenders bolted to the inner fender well. There's also a support that goes in here and also a shroud that goes in here to kind of tie all this together. So we need to get that put on the car. But before I can do any of that, we need to get these fenders sanded out and polished to make sure that there's no paintwork that needs to be addressed or touched up on the car. My buddy Matt's going to come over and do that, and as I mentioned in one of the last updates on the shop itself, he's in the middle of painting a semi right now, and where he works they paint a lot of semis, and he's going to be a couple weeks yet before he can come over and work on that. So that's okay, it's not a big deal. There's some other paintwork, some touch-up things we need to do on the car as well, so we'll make that evaluation when he's available, and in the meantime we're going to move forward on other things on the car. I have I think it's an American Harness. That name isn't right. I'll look it up and tell you what it is in a second. Anyway, wiring harness to put through the car. I bought brand new 10 years ago or more when I bought all the parts to put this car together. So it will have everything we need to wire the car properly, have the proper switches in the dash, tail lights. The car has a center mount stoplight also in the Ford emblem in the back that needs to be lit up. So that needs to be done. A couple of other things that need to be done to the car. The master cylinder reservoir is still in here. I want to mount that to the inner fender well out there. But the actual master cylinder and brake booster is underneath the floor of this car because I wanted everything, first of all, to be similar to original. And the original master cylinder, because this car did have juice brakes on it, the original master cylinder was mounted underneath the car. This has a modern General Motors brake booster and Masters dual reservoir master cylinder for safety. It's also mounted down here under the floor. Now there's a problem with that because at the time that I installed it, I don't know if the part came with it or if it didn't, and I'm not a GM guy, so I wasn't as aware of some things that I've learned since then. I do believe this has a deep bore master cylinder, but the brake booster doesn't accommodate that. And there's a 1/2-inch spacer that you can buy, and if I remember, I'll try to insert a picture of it. It's made by many companies, but it's a little aluminum or steel extender that allows the deep bore master cylinder to work with basically a shallow bore brake booster. So what's happening, and I doubt you'll be able to see it, but there's a lot of free play here in this brake pedal. before the brakes actuate. And it's not linkage problems, it's because there's so much play in there. And what that does is it causes the brakes to act funky. So the brakes work good, but it doesn't have a good solid pedal. And so when we did the chassis and I was putting the brakes together on this car, I spent like 4 hours bleeding it, and I couldn't figure out why I couldn't get a good solid pedal out of it. And in the process of all of that, I just said, it's got brakes, good enough, let's move on. I didn't want to sit there spending weeks trying to figure that out. And in the meantime, over the years, I finally figured out what's going on. So I need to pull the master cylinder back and double check that that's the issue, and then get that piece put in there so that the brake pedal actually works properly. Something else you'll notice is right here is my gas can right now. That's my gas tank. I'm just using a 1 gallon antifreeze jug that runs a little line down to my electric fuel pump. The original fuel tank is back in the car, but it's full of rust, and I did buy the conditioner to fix the tank and plastic line it. I don't know if I'm going to do that or if I'm just going to go out and buy a new tank for this car. We'll see where the pocketbook is at that time. But it's not going to stop me from driving it, because I need to run the fuel line back. And what I probably am going to do for this year is just temporarily mount a boat tank in the trunk. If that's the last thing that's going to keep me from driving the car, I'll pick up a 10-gallon boat tank, put that in the car, and just drive it like that, strap it down so it's safe. And that won't be any big deal, because once I do decide what I'm doing with the fuel tank, I'll be able to just move that line down to the fuel tank where it belongs and move on. Like I said, my goal is here to not let things prevent me from driving the car this year. So that's something else that needs to be accomplished. Obviously, something that I've already done an episode on is the seats. The floor is uneven in here, and the challenge of the seats that I have out of that Dodge Shadow is the brackets weren't able to be easily modified. And I decided to just get that seat bolted in there, even though it's a bit crooked, and then come back later and get the seats put in properly. So I don't have a seat in the passenger side. The back seat's not in yet, and the driver's seat is in there, but it's wonky. So I need to take care of that also before I start driving it. I mean, it's just an aesthetic thing on the driver's side. It's safe, it's fine, but the seat is in there crooked, and it does kind of bug you. You don't feel it when you're sitting there, but still. And obviously I want to have a passenger seat here so that somebody can ride with me, or I can ride with somebody if they're driving. The back seat also, if I don't get that in, not the end of the world, but that's something I want to accomplish. Another thing that I need to do, and the seat brackets and the were part of the reason I was getting some of the equipment. I mean, I bought a lot of, like, the bead roller and the sheet metal brake. The slapping file was for the Challenger. It seemed like there was something else I bought. Oh, no, it's the pipe anvil that my buddy Chris and I are building. Well, he's pretty much gathering the materials for. I need to make a tunnel. So some of that sheet metal equipment will be used to make the new mounts for the seat. But I also need to make a tunnel here. And as I've been thinking about it, if it's going to stop me from driving the car, I'm going to use the wood floorboards this year. But I think I'm going to go back and go ahead and make the steel floorboards now that I have better equipment to make them. I could have made them before with just the hand tools that I had. I've been doing that for years. But since I do have equipment that's going to make it be able to be done a lot quicker, that may be a winter project that I tackle some weekend and just say, let's make some metal floorboards for this. But in the meantime, these are going to work fine so I can drive it, and that's my goal. I mean, I'm not going to be bothering to put door panels on and things like that, but I want it to be road legal, have all the lights working, and be safe, of course. The other thing that needs to happen, needs to go in for a front end alignment, but I also need to go through underneath and make sure that all the cotter pins are in, that everything's tight like it's supposed to be, so that it's safe. And then when I take it into my buddy Mike over there at All-in-One Auto, I'll have him go through it and make sure everything is, that I didn't miss anything. I always like to get a second set of eyes on a car. When I did the GTS, I took it into him when he was working at the Chrysler dealership and had him do the front end alignment. And it's a good thing I did, because there was a couple of cotter pins that I missed on well, it was one cotter pin on a tie rod and something else I don't remember right now. So when you've been working on a project so long, it's very easy to miss something or overlook something, because it's kind of, you get used to it. It's like frog in a pot. So it's good to do that. So once it's on the road and I've looked it over, I'll take it up to Mike, get basically the toe in is all that can be said on it. But and then just have him give it a look over for safety and make sure that I didn't miss something, because another set of eyes is obviously good for safety. So people might question, what's the rush? Why don't you just take a lot more time and not drive it this year, and get things done 100%, get the hood painted and so forth? A couple of reasons. First of all, I've owned this car since 2007, so it's 13 years I've had this. I've been working on the car since 2007 pretty much, although of course that I did take 7 years or so where I didn't really work on it much, well, some cases in 11 years. But I find that I get more motivated once the car is on the road and I can drive the thing, because I can be enjoying it. So of course there'll be things that I have to fix as I discover things that, I call it a sorting out year. When you first put a car on the road that you've built, there's always something, something that has to be fixed before I can drive it is the transmission oil pan. But we may find there are other leaks or other things that show up as the car is being driven. So there's that. The second thing is, from the point that it's on the road forward, most of the things that need to happen can be done on a Saturday afternoon in a couple of hours. I can break it down into little bite-sized projects and say, I want to get the windshield wipers working. Does that matter on this car? Not at all, because I'm probably never going to drive it in the rain. Now, when I put the windshield wiper mechanisms in, the vacuum motor is in there that runs it, and at that time I made sure it was functional, that the seals were all good. I'm going to assume that's still good, but maybe not. So that could be a weekend project. Maybe making door panels and quarter panel inserts for the back seat may be a weekend project. A headliner can be a weekend project. So I like to break it down into things that can be done while I'm enjoying the car, because at the end of the day, there comes a point which, if you're not enjoying and you're not out driving it, you just lose interest, and because these projects take so much time. The other element in that is I have the 68 Dart over here that does need a little bit more work, so I can be driving that this summer. I don't want to consume my whole summer just with this. The 74 Swinger out there still needs a fuel pump, which I can't do yet. Not a hard job, 2 lines and 2 bolts, but it needs to be done, and until I have a hand I can't. I've got the engine torn down on the 26 Oakland here, and I want to get that hopefully fired up, at least get the engine to turn over so we can see what things look like. And, well, it turns over, but I mean, get it to pop and get it to fire and make a little noise. We're probably still a year out on getting this car to the point that it can be driven. But the next step, once we do, we get the engine fired up, obviously make sure the engine's good, and then check whether the clutch is stuck, do we have to pull the engine out, etc., etc. So there's a lot of work to do on the Oakland, and I really hope to have this car on the road in another year from now. That's the goal, year to a year and a half. And of course, the Challenger I really want to be having right here where the Oakland is this fall, and really be tearing into the serious sheet metal work that needs to be done on that car to rebuild the frame on the back half of the car. And that's the stuff that I absolutely love doing, which is why we bought so much of this equipment. So there's a lot to do, and moving the cars around. I still need to finish building the metal shop that I want and move things around and put the door in. Obviously, I can't do that till I'm done with being injured and being able to move forward. So that's some of what's happening. So the next step here on the 47 Ford, I still have the grill hanging on the wall. I need to get that down, get it over here, get the front bumper over here, and start working on getting that primed and finished. I'm hoping that once my hand is healed, stitches are supposed to come out tomorrow. Hopefully they will. But my guess is it's still probably going to be another week or so before I can get really serious. Randall, I might have to take your suggestion and wear a glove for a while, which I hate because I'm so tactile. I have to feel everything. But if it means wearing a glove on one hand so I can work to protect the wound on this hand, then that's what we'll do. But until this is healed enough that I can put strain on it, I can't do that. So I think that's going to do it for today's episode. I just wanted to give you a bit of an overview of what needs to happen on the car to put this car on the road. It's close. It's actually quite close. Painting the grille is probably the thing that's going to take the longest. I would suggest that I can probably get that wiring done in a few days if I have a good Saturday and a Sunday, and then maybe a couple miscellaneous days. So there's just a lot happening here, and I'm just biding my time. So again, thanks for joining on this episode of My Car Shop on the 47 Ford Street Rod, and hopefully we'll be back to hands-on work here soon, and you'll get to see some things happening that maybe you haven't seen before. If you have questions, please post them down there in the comments. I read all the comments that come in. If there's questions, I try to answer them via writing, or I'll answer them in the show, or both. Also, please tell your friends about the show. Subscribe if you haven't. If you're watching this, please subscribe. That helps me as I get more subscribers on the channel. There's more features that become available in YouTube that will give you guys even more content, and we really want to do that. Part of my reason for doing this is just it's providing a video documentation for my family of what I can do, what the skills are, what's been done on the cars, what needs to be done on the cars in case something happens to me. But it also is a way of passing my skills on to family members and to those who are interested. And I know a lot of you just enjoy the process of seeing. You'll probably never do a car, but you're fascinated in seeing what it takes to do cars like this. So that's my purpose in doing this channel, and I'm doing it in my spare time. I try to get an episode or two out a week. I'm not on a regular schedule with that, but I really am hoping to do that as things grow. So anyway, thanks for watching. You make sure that you create a great weekend for yourself. And one more thing, remember this, rock 'em.